Good evening. Yes. I'm happy to be here. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you for turning on your cameras and being here for each other as we start this evening. I am looking forward to sharing a little bit about right mindfulness with you tonight. It's a topic we talk about a lot, but tonight we're going to speak about it with some surgical precision, so you know just exactly what we're doing and what you can do. And first we'll start out with a guided meditation, and then we'll do walking meditation. I'm not seeing anyone new here, so I'm not seeing that we need a lot of explanation, which is good to know. And then I have some sutra commentary that Thich Nhat Hanh has written, which I think will be very helpful for the basis of my sharing. And then we'll have a chance to speak personally from the heart, each of us. And I'm looking forward to closing with a very special sharing the merit as well. So kind of mixing up a lot of stuff tonight. So why don't we go ahead and find our posture. Feel the weight of our seat in our chair. Feel our feet on the floor. And go ahead and take a big breath and exhale. Release all of the tension from the day. Maybe do that one more time. And now just notice the gentle, natural rhythm of your in-breath and your out-breath. And I'll invite 3 sounds of the bell. Breathing in, I observe my body breathing in. Breathing out, I observe my body breathing out. In, out. Breathing in, I observe the position of my body. Breathing out, I observe my body sitting. In, position, out, sitting. Breathing in, I observe the functions of my body. Breathing out, I observe the parts of my body. In, functions, out, parts. Breathing in, I observe a pleasant feeling in my body. Breathing out, I observe a pleasant feeling in my mind. In, pleasant body feeling. Out, pleasant mind feeling. Breathing in, I feel that the pleasant feeling is still there. Breathing out, I can see the roots of this pleasant feeling. In, pleasant. Out, seeing the roots of the pleasant feeling. Breathing in, I can see that my mind is distracted. Breathing out, I can see that my mind is not distracted. In, distracted. Out, mind not distracted. Breathing in, I see my mind is desiring. Breathing out, I see that my mind is not desiring. In, desiring mind. Out, not desiring mind. Breathing in, I see my mind can have a wide scope. Breathing out, I see my mind can have a narrow scope. In, wide scope. Out, narrow scope. Breathing in, I see that my mind can be caught. Breathing out, I see my mind can be free. In, caught, out, mind free. Breathing in, I see my mind is awake. Breathing out, I see I am capable of deep looking, investigating phenomena. In, awake, out, investigating. in our guided meditation this evening, we got a little taste of the 4 establishments of mindfulness. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in some detail. But what I'd like to do is share with you my screen and have you all help me read through a commentary written by Thich Nhat Hanh on the 4 establishments of mindfulness. And to do this, I'm wondering if we can have 10 volunteers, where each person would read 1 paragraph. So if you'd like to volunteer, just go ahead. Okay, I see Lynn and Deborah and Nancy and Clarissa and Christina and Ed and Anne. Am I missing anyone? And Justine. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 2 more. Diane, was that you raising your hand? Excellent, Diane. 1 more volunteer? Jackie, all right. Okay, so we'll go in this order. You might want to just pay attention to the person who precedes you. So it'll be Lynn, Deborah, Nancy, and that's Deborah, right? Deborah, Nancy, Clarissa, Christina, Ed, Anne, Justine, Diane, and Jackie. And it'll be very clear when your paragraph shows up. So, all right, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. And if you can just go ahead when it's your turn and unmute yourself, we can begin.
What is mindfulness? We practice mindfulness in order to realize liberation, peace, and joy in our everyday lives. Liberation and happiness are linked to each other. If there is liberation, there is happiness. And greater liberation brings greater happiness. If there is liberation, peace, and joy exist in the present moment. We don't need to wait 10 or 15 years to realize them. They're available as soon as we begin the practice. However modest these elements may be, they form the basis for greater liberation, peace, and joy in the future.
To practice meditation is to look deeply in order to see into the essence of things. With insight and understanding, we can realize liberation, peace, and joy. Our anger, anxiety, and fear are the ropes that bind us to suffering. If we want to be liberated from them, we need to observe their nature, which is ignorance, the lack of clear understanding. When we misunderstand a friend, we may become angry at him, and because of that, we may suffer. But when we look deeply into what has happened, we can end the misunderstanding. When we understand the other person and his situation, our suffering will disappear and peace and joy will arise. The first step is awareness of the object, and the second step is looking deeply at the object to shed light on it. Therefore, mindfulness means awareness, and it also means looking deeply.
Nancy?
The Pali word sati, Sanskrit smrti, means to stop and to maintain awareness of the object. The Pali word vipassana, Sanskrit vipassana, means to go deeply into that object to observe it. While we are fully aware of and observing deeply an object, the boundary between the subject who observes and the object being observed gradually dissolves, and the subject and object become one. This is the essence of meditation. Only when we penetrate an object and become one with it can we understand. It is not enough to stand. It's hard to, I can't really see that. It's not enough to stand and observe an object. That's why the sutra on the 4 establishments of mindfulness reminds us to be aware of the body in the body, the feelings in the feelings, the mind in the mind, and the objects of mind in the objects of mind.
Clarissa?
In the sutra,
Starts right here. Mindfulness is always mindfulness of something. Right here.
I don't have the right. I have, it says in the sutra, and mountains and a monk are the.
I'll read your section then. I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
Thank you.
Mindfulness is always mindfulness of something. There are 4 areas of mindfulness, 4 areas where mindfulness has to penetrate in order for us to be protected, for joy to be nourished, for pain to be transformed, and for insight to be obtained. These are called the 4 establishments of mindfulness. These 4 establishments or foundations are body, feelings, mind, and objects of mind. Christina, can you pick up there?
The first establishment of mindfulness is mindfulness of the body, in the body. This means that when you bring mindfulness into your body, mindfulness becomes the body. Mindfulness is not an outside observer. Mindfulness becomes the body, and the body becomes mindfulness. When a mother embraces her child, the mother becomes her child, and the child becomes her mother. In true meditation, the subject and the object of meditation no longer exist as separate entities. That distinction is removed. When you generate the energy of mindfulness and embrace your breathing and your body, that is mindfulness of the body in the body. Mindfulness is not an outside observer, it is the body. The body becomes the object and the subject of mindfulness at the same time.
Ed? Ed, are you with us?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute, and I'm not in the right. I don't think I'm in the right thing
Okay.
here either. Yeah, sorry.
I'll jump in then, thank you. It's like when a nuclear scientist say that to understand an elementary particle and really enter into the world of the infinitely small, you have to become a participant and not an observer anymore. In India, they use the example of a grain of salt that would like to know how salty the ocean is. How can a grain of salt come to know this? The only way is for it to jump into the ocean, and the understanding will be perfect. The separation between the object of understanding and the subject of understanding is no longer there. In our time, nuclear scientists have begun to see that. That is why they say that in order to really understand the world of elementary particle, you have to stop being an observer. You have to become a participant. And Anne, can you see the screen?
The second establishment of mindfulness is our feelings. The third establishment of mindfulness is the mind, namely the mental formation. In the Sutra on the Full Awareness of Breathing, the Buddha offers us 4 exercises of mindful breathing to take care of each of these fields of our mindfulness.
Thank you. And Justine?
The fourth establishment of mindfulness is the realm of perception. In the sutra is spoken as the object of mind, and we can understand this as perception. The Buddha, who proposed 4 exercises on mindful breathing for contemplation of the objects of the mind, in the mind, so that we can penetrate, embrace, and look deeply into the objects of our perception. Doing so gives us the insight that will liberate us from our delusion and our suffering.
Thank you. Diane?
Mountains, rivers, birds, and blue skies, houses, streams, children, and animals. Everything is the object of your perception. And we have 4 exercises of mindful breathing in order to help us inquire about the true nature of all these things, including ourselves. The body is also an object of the mind. Feelings are also objects of our minds, and mental formations become objects of our minds. We can always inquire about the nature of our bodies, our feelings, or our minds, as well as our perceptions and other things. If we look deeply at the body, in the body, it becomes the object of the mind. When we are looking at feelings, then feelings are the objects of the mind. When we are observing the mind becomes the object of our minds. All the establishments of mindfulness are in fact objects of the mind.
Thank you. Jackie?
A monk once asked me how the mind can be an object of the mind. I said, if we take our 2 fingers and rub them together, then the body is in touch with the body. The mind is the same. When we look into our bodies, the body is the object of our minds. When we look into form, form is the object of our minds. When we look into formations, mental formations are the objects of our minds. So we see that the field of objects of the mind is very vast, but the division into 4 establishments is a convenient tool to help us to learn how to practice mindfulness.
Whew, we did it. So this is a very substantial sutra. It is a very meaty training. And this sutra on the 4 establishments of mindfulness can be found in the book Transformation and Healing by Thich Nhat Hanh. And as you can see, it's a whole book just on this notion of focusing our mindfulness on the body, our feelings, our mental formations, and our objects of mind. So there's some words in there that are a little unusual for us in the way that we speak normally. But I do want to say that this is first and foremost a fundamental teaching of the Buddhas on how to practice mindfulness. And it is the foundation of all mindfulness practice. In this book, there are 20 exercises that Thai has given us that can guide you through the fundamentals of Buddhist practice. So I have found this book to be very beneficial in terms of offering insight into daily life, even though it sounds a bit kind of, stretching our imagination. What, hang in there. because it's very, very rich. And we need to know every time we sit down what we're doing to practice mindfulness. We bring our mind in contact with our body. We bring our mind in contact with our feelings. We bring our mind in contact with our mental formations and our mind in contact with our objects of mind. And I'll talk about more what that means. But we don't sit down and just kind of watch a parade of thoughts go by and go, oh, isn't that interesting? I mean, we think all day, we daydream all day, and this isn't that. Our mindfulness practice is actually quite specific. And Ty talks about this as like the foundations of our dwelling place. And what happens when we're forgetful about our dwelling place and that we don't pay attention to the foundations? Well, our house can fall apart, right? Where we live, we can be swept away by the winds of the present moment. But if we have these foundations in place, then we are much more likely to be mindful from moment to moment, because we can see, we have a frame to see what's happening in each moment. So this kind of practice is about coming home and taking refuge in our body, taking refuge in our feelings, taking refuge in our mental formations and in our objects of mind. It is kind of the opposite of what society tells us, which is escape. You know, don't pay attention there, what's happening in your mind, it's scary. This is saying, no, actually coming to this place is a way of coming home. It's a way of grounding ourselves and making peace with what's happening in our minds. So the first establishment of mindfulness is connecting the mind to the body. And we do this every time we sit down and we say, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. If you notice in guided meditation, we almost always start there. In, out. Because immediately our attention is on something very specific that we can feel, that we can directly experience in the present moment. And that is bringing our attention to our body. And there's other ways of doing this. We can bring our attention to the way that we're sitting, or the way that we're standing, or if we're lying in bed, the way that we're lying down. We can be aware of the body's positions. You'll notice in the guided meditation, we were aware of the functions of the body and the parts of the body. You know, when we do deep relaxation, we bring our awareness first to our toes and then our feet, and then our ankles and our calves, and we work our way all the way up to the tip of our head. And what we're doing is we're bringing mindful awareness to all those parts of our bodies, and the awareness itself is healing. The awareness itself is providing a relationship between your mind and your body that helps your mind take care of your body. And that shining that light of mindfulness is when we realize, oh, I'll just adjust my posture a little bit. Oh, that's better. Or, oh, my legs are really stressed and tired. And I'm just going to let them relax. And that guiding the relaxation and the comfort of our body is a very healing process. We can be aware of our body movements. So are we singing? We can sing with mindful awareness. Are we walking? You know, we walk in mindful awareness as one of our regular practices. Are we running? Are we reaching for something? You know, if I'm reaching for a can good off of the shelf, I can do that in complete mindful awareness. And so this is kind of how we can begin to train ourselves to practice throughout the day, just by bringing our awareness to our movements. We can also see the elements in our bodies. We can see the element of earth. the element of fire, the element of water, the element of air. And when we do, and we look deeply into that, we can see that our body is not separate from our environment. We can see that there is this interconnection, that the air that's outside is also inside. And this is, again, not poetry, this is quite literal, that the earth is our body because it's what we eat. You know, and so all of this, when we really look deeply into this, it allows us to no longer be confined by narrow views of what our body is. And suddenly we understand we have an earth body. So that is like one of the touchstones that I have as being an earth holder. It's like this body, it's both inside and outside. So a practice that we can have for bringing our mind and body into contact with each other is the practice of in, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. Those pairs of words are beautiful in terms of helping us calm and ease our body. It's a very healing way of practicing. In, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. So that's one way that we can practice with our mindfulness, and that is the first establishment of mindfulness, the connecting our mind with our body. The second establishment is becoming aware of our feelings. And it's like our feelings are a river, and every single drop of the river is a different feeling. And we're invited to sit on the shore and let the river just flow. And we can observe these feelings moving through us and past us. And we can sometimes name the feelings: nervousness, confidence, gratitude, you know, just name them as they go by. And one of the really wonderful practices we can do also with our feelings is to classify them. You know, if you've got a feeling that goes by, you can say, ah, pleasant, or unpleasant, or even neutral. And pretty much every feeling that we have in these drops of the river can be classified as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And it's such a powerful practice because you can also notice how you kind of want to cling on to the pleasant one. Wait, come here, don't go so fast. You want to shoo away the unpleasant one. And oftentimes we're bored by the neutral ones, or we fail to even have them register because there's nothing sensational about them. But those neutral feelings are also gifts, because we can be grateful that we're feeling neutral, and then that becomes a pleasant feeling. So that practice of connecting your mind with your feelings and just naming the feelings, or naming pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, is very similar to the practice we have of calming our body and bringing ease to it. So we can notice that some of our feelings are very difficult to be with. I mean, extremely difficult sometimes. And rather than deny or push away that a feeling is very difficult, we can tend to that feeling like a mother tends to her child. Sometimes the child is joyful, everything is easy, everybody's in the groove, and sometimes that child is as difficult as can be, and everybody's suffering. But still, that mother's love is there. And the tending to that difficulty is what we can learn to do with our difficult emotions. Identifying those feelings without fighting them. And we do suffer when our feeling is stronger than our mindfulness. And there is a practice that I have learned, which is as long as we can take at least 10% of our conscious awareness on the sensation of our body, breathing in and breathing out. And then the other 90% can like just lightly touch the strong emotion. As long as we're grounded in the in-breath and the out-breath, then our mindfulness will be stronger than the emotion. We can actually take in that in doses. And when it's too difficult, we can just relax and say, okay, enough for now, I'm going to come back to this. You know, this is a way of taking the energy off of those really difficult emotions with skill and intelligence, protecting ourselves as we do it. So we always want to keep our mindfulness stronger than the emotion. And we go back to the difficult emotion iteratively, gently, you know, just revisiting it like with the tenderness of a mother, again and again. The third establishment of mindfulness is awareness of the mind in the mind. And another way to say this is aware of mental formations. Now, a mental formation is anything that is formed. That's the official definition. I don't find that really helpful. Think of it this way. You know that circle that I draw and I put the line through it, and underneath the line in the circle are all the dots of the store of consciousness, and there's all those seeds that have the potential to be watered. And then a trigger happens or something happens, and one of those seeds pops up from our store consciousness into our mind consciousness and flowers. And it could be a wholesome seed, it could be an unwholesome seed, you know, whatever it is, but all of a sudden it pops up and we can bathe it in our awareness. You know, so that circle is our mental formations. It's our mind consciousness. So we've got the store consciousness, we've got the stuff that comes up into our awareness. And so that's what I mean when I say anything that can be formed, anything, all these seeds of potentiality, and all of them can be triggered. So we've talked before about universal mental formations, which were the contact, awareness, remember this? And feelings, perceptions, and volition, that like all of that kind of comes up at once. It's universal. It's like a mixed bag that, boom, you've got it, right? So you've got to deal with contact, awareness, and all your feelings and perceptions are right there with it. So those are the universal mental formations. And then there's a whole bunch of wholesome mental formations that help us transform suffering. So it could be our faith and confidence in the practice. It could be our humility. It could be self-respect, non-anger. You know, these are all wholesome mental formations. Non-ignorance, ease, equanimity, non-violence. And then there are some unwholesome mental formations that we can come into awareness when they arise, and those would be those things that imprison us in suffering, like greed, hatred, ignorance, pride, doubt, and views. Remember in our talks about right view, the right view is non-view because they're all just points of view. So if we cling to our view, that is something that brings us to suffering. So those are some of the unwholesome mental formations that we can work with as they arise. And then there's some things that arise that depend, like sleepiness could be either wholesome, if it truly is time to go to bed, or it could be unwholesome. If you're like not wanting to do something, or you're feeling sloth and lazy, or, you know, whatever it is. So sleepiness can be wholesome or unwholesome. Regret. Regret is an important one. If you find that that surfaces, you can say, oh, I made a mistake. I'm going to correct this mistake by, first of all, calling myself out on it, and then taking steps to rectify it. Or you can have the regret that said, oh, I am such a dimwit. I always do the same thing. Why, you know, and then the chatter starts. That's an unwholesome regret and a mental formation. And then thoughts. So we have these thoughts, they're mental formations, these ideas that come up, and some of them can be very wholesome about ideas for helping to apply the mindfulness trainings to daily life, for example. And other thoughts can be very unwholesome. For example, somebody can be extremely mindful and be a sniper shooter. And they can be quite talented and take aim to actually harm people. So that's not right mindfulness. There's this quality of wholesomeness as we apply mindfulness and bring our awareness that we need to help to understand. So the practice in dealing with becoming aware of our mind, becoming aware of our mental formations, is to practice recognition. Oh, I am really irritated in this moment. I'm really feeling impatient. I am really feeling impatient, you know, or whatever it is that's coming up. We just recognize it. It doesn't mean we need to act out on it, but we can actually acknowledge what's going on with ourselves and then choose how to behave. And one of the things we can do also with this is to look deeply. Like if we have an irritation that comes up again and again, we can just stop and look at this and say, where is this seed coming from? Because this seed in my stored consciousness, it just keeps erupting in this way. I'm impatient, I'm intolerant. What is going on? And as we look deeply, we can see the roots that are in our stored consciousness, where it came from. And the amazing thing here is we can see that our individual seeds that are being watered, our individual consciousness, is actually completely connected to our collective consciousness. These are seeds that we've inherited. These are seeds that either we've gotten from our ancestors, or from society, or from education, or from direct experience. But these seeds are coming from somewhere. These mental formations are coming from somewhere. They're not ours alone. And to me, the exciting thing about mindfulness of these mental formations when they arise is that if I can see them and I can transform them through my own understanding, oh, this is because that is, then I have transformed it not only for myself, but I've transformed it for my ancestors, and I've transformed it for the collective, because it stops. It's released. Whatever that habit energy is, I've released it. So this is a very, very powerful practice, this third establishment of mindfulness, looking at these mental formations. And then the fourth establishment of mindfulness is to be mindful of phenomenon, objects of mind. So every mental formation has an object. So if I'm angry at. That's the object. If I'm in love with. And that's the object of my love. If I'm happy about. And that's the object of my happiness. If I'm inspired, then I'm inspired by. And that's the object of mind. And if we're, for example, outside and there's bird song and we're mindful of the bird song, then the object of mind is the sound. If we're just captivated by the blueness of the sky, then the object of mind is what we're seeing, that blueness. If we're letting go, choosing to let go of something, the object of our letting go is the thing we're letting go of. So objects of mind, you've heard me talk about the two kinds of Dharma, that there's the Dharma with the capital D, which is all of the teachings of the Buddha, very formal. The sutra is a gift of the Dharma with a capital D. But then there's the little d Dharma, which is everything out there that's teaching us. So objects of mind are little d Dharma. It's the same thing. It's everything that we can learn from, right? And it's specifically all that can be conceived of as existing is an object of mind. Everything that belongs to the sphere of memory, experience, I'll add imagination, those are all objects of mind, little d dharmas. So when the mind is observing the mind becomes the object of mind. When the mind is observing the way the mind's working, then your mind is the object of your mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing a little nodding. That's good. You're still with me? The practice with this small d Dharma and what we can learn from it in our mindfulness is we can see the interdependent origin of the object of our mind. So if we're angry at a person, we can see the interdependent origin, how what has arisen has come about because of causes and conditions that are impacting us both. We can see that phenomenon, every phenomenon out there, little d Dharma, everything out there, it arises, it endures, and it ceases to be. We can see the impermanent nature of it. We can see the interbeing, the interconnected nature of it in everything. This is because that is. This is produced because that is produced. This is destroyed because that is destroyed. So everything is dependently co-arising and co-creating moment to moment to moment. All of the Dharma, all of the objects of mind that we can bring our awareness to. So dharmas, these little d Dharmas, all of these objects of mind, they do not have an independent existence. You can't say, oh, well, this thing will continue forever. or this thing stands alone and it has a separate self. You can't say that about anything. So everything is empty of a separate self and full of the rest of the cosmos. All little d dharma, all objects of mind are separate of are empty of separate identities and full of the entire cosmos. If I see a leaf, I can see the tree, I can see the soil and the rain and the sun. I can see the seed and the ancestor trees. And I can see the birds and animals that spread the seeds. I mean, it goes on and out and back and forward, and it's just all interconnected. So this notion of being mindful of phenomenon and really looking at the interconnection and the impermanence as the true nature of all phenomenon, it really evokes a principle, which is that the one is in the all and the all is in the one. If there's no separation, that leaf contains the all, and everything in the cosmos has come together in that moment into that leaf. If you are here in this moment, you are the manifestation of everything in the cosmos coming together in this moment. And in you is the entire cosmos. And what I love about that principle, that understanding, is that is at the root of how we can just be still and know. Because we can access the entire cosmos. How did the Buddha understand aspects of the nature of reality that scientists are only now able to prove? He said, form is emptiness. Well, guess what? The scientists look and they say, oh, well, in the atoms there's space. Let's look at the pieces of the atom. And they look at the pieces of the atom and, oh my gosh, well, in there's just more space and more space. And they keep looking at matter and there's no there. It's just more space. Form is emptiness. Any form, any dharma that you look at, any mental formation, any object of mind is just a manifestation in this moment of the entire cosmos. So we can be still and know. And the practice here is to do what's called discriminative investigation, where we say, well, let's look at this, and then how this is related to this, and this is related to this, and we can start to see these chains and these connections. And we can realize the interdependence of all that is. So that is being mindful of phenomena, mindful of objects of mind. And we can look deeply to discover the Dharma before us and its source and its true nature. We can see in any object of mind that we look at the true nature of no birth and no death. Because nothing just suddenly appears. Everything is a continuation. It came from someplace, it manifested like this, and then it's going to change into something else. This is the birthless and deathless nature of all things. Observation of interdependence, of interbeing, is the road to transcending our concrete beliefs in birth and death that have been handed down to us from our ancestors and that are misunderstood in our direct experience. We can look more deeply, we can look past that and through that to the birthless and deathless nature of all things. So mindful observation of interdependence, interbeing, this is the quintessential part of the Buddhist path. Right there. Observation of interdependence. It's the quintessence. So I'd like to also share with you, oh my goodness, we have run out of time. I had so much fun telling you about all that. I'm going to save the rest of this for another time. But I do want to save time for Dharma sharing. So tonight I have an idea. As a Sangha, let's go ahead and create the space for those who have not shared in the past to share this evening. So all of our regular sharers, let's go ahead and just relax. And let's hear from those who have been more reserved. Again, there's no pressure to have to share, but even if we just sit in silence this evening, I'd like to open the floor to those who need a little bit more space and time before their voices are heard. So thank you very much.